everybody doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares with me. From the heart, I thank you. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype the video. It goes a long way with getting the message out. Gracias. And again, from the heart, muchísimas gracias for helping me get to 1,000K on subscribers. It just means the message got a bigger reach, right? And it's a blessing with every one of you. We are who we are, and I'm forever humble. Gracias. But anyways, getting into what I want to touch on today. Well, earlier in the life, there was a camarada from MS asking me to, touch on MS. I really don't do so a lot, I know so, and not because they weren't around or they had meaning as camaradas or none of that. It's just I get boiled up and I got a set plan on what to put out and, you know, just live out here in Culiacan and everything sometimes just throws me off. But anyways, today I want to speak about a homie that was, you could say, one of the closest individuals I got with in the Pinta, right? Which was Loquito, Loco from North Hills or in the Valley, right? MS from the Valley. I've actually told or mentioned him in stories for those that remember. I met him from the gate being a rider, right? And this was in Vacaville. As you guys recall, I didn't know nobody when I went out there. We'd just circle around. It was on going to be on and cracking, and I was in red, so I asked for a pair of clothes, day boots, and I snuck out. Well, anyways, getting to the table of homies, there was two camaradas that basically were going through things, which was Lucifer from West LA. He had a bag on him, right? Because he had gotten shot. And Loquito, his right arm had been done to it. That's why he was there, due to him getting shot on the streets too. He had a cast. So them being out there, and it was gonna go up, right? With norteños, that meant a lot, right? But they were there for a reason. So as I introduced myself to them, I actually told them like, "Hey, homies, go inside, on the unlock. Don't even trip about it. Take care of your issues." They both said chales. And anyways, in the riot, you could say we bonded, me and Loquito, right? Cause it was a butt kicking, just straight up. They served us the way they wanted to serve us. But in the melee or whatever, after everything started, I had the homie in my head, right? Which is they were injured. So I remember Loquito, he was slinging them, with the cast on and everything. As they beamed them, I ran over there and I beamed, and then we both went down and got stomped on, right? And of course, it was that was the whole riot, right? You got yours a little bit, and then you got stomped in some more, and then you get up again and you handle business. And you know, the thing is, they had already started throwing them spearhead grenades and all that. The yard was a chaos at that moment. So, anyways, without boring you with the same thing, when we hit the hole, Willis, he was in the very next cell to me. I was in the very last one. He was in the one next to me. So it's how we got close, pretty much. The months we spent back there, workout partner, cause homeboy, he did his rutina with the cast on, you know, and chess. I used to call him Bichillo Loco, out of respect and love, and he used to call me amongst other things, you know how it is, and you know, I came to like the individual, maybe more than I should, knowing the get downs of the system, right? But anyhow, from there he went up north. From there they send him to high desert, and as you guys know, I went down south, right? It was just a bunch of events that within 2 months I was involved in that they had to get me out of northern institutions. Basically, is you know on me hang out when he was alive. He mentioned, he was there when I hit the yard, and it only took a couple hours before I rallied up the homies and we boogied, you know. And anyways, that ain't important, It's part of the system, and we stayed in touch. We stayed in touch behind one of his carnalas. He said, he used to tell me, Bicho, I like you como cuñado, I used to tell him, man, if just playing around, And anyways, we stayed in touch through his sister, right, Estela. And but with me, it's even though the homie was okay in it wasn't okay with me. My homeboys that know me would tell you, me my respects, to carnalas, aunts, whatever, right? Whatever they're related to you, I don't mess around. Never have, never will. My respects. And anyways, I don't want to make this about that. I just want to put a little history on Loco. He was an individual, right? He had MS behind his head, and he was uh he was with it. Like I said, he proved it from the moment I went out there and met him, right? And it was what it was. We met throughout that beat in. It's like at the end when everybody went down and they jumped on Lucifer, and I got real close with Shaggy from La Puente too, because me and him jumped up and we took him off Lucifer. And like I said before, they received me with something in the back of the head, and I had not noticed till they sprayed us dead on, right, for getting up. And anyways, we used to make fun of each other. One, he was telling me like, "Hey, fool, when you seen them drop me, why did you run over there? What do you expect to do?" And I used to tell, "Look, Loco, the way I'm brought is, even if I just got one in and we fall together, It's better than not getting any, right? We fall together. That's the whole point. But there was just too many norteños, you know. Now getting into when he was in high desert, you know, I was in Ironwood. As you guys know, high desert also belonged to Terco. So there was communication, at least from where I was at, A Yard, Ironwood, and High Desert, where Loco was at. You know, and he found himself there. At least everything that I heard, he really found himself. You know, he uh, he was amongst Listo. You know, Listo was in that riot with us, and Serio was there from pacas too. So he became trustworthy right away in that circle, right? And you know, a lot of things unfolded. You know, a lot of people. I heard a good homie from. Well, don't matter. He was one of the good ones that came out on Tony's channel, right? Tell the story how Serio basically pulled the mission when he was a camarada and took out later on a paisa claiming to be a señor, right? Which that's a fact. The thing he didn't mention is that Loquito Loco was the one that went with him, you know, and he earned respect over that. You know, by that time I was already in Corcoran, I believe, when I heard about that. And to be honest, I was supporting Artie, and at the same time, I was supporting Terco to make sense of it. You know, you can't serve two masters, and that's a fact, right? But there was a lot of homies getting to Corcoran shoe that were bad with Artie because of the wars that were opened up with Artie. You guys know with sneaking, there was the homie Gallo. Well, there were 6, 7 homies I got there. You know, one of them was Loco from MS. He got there and you know things were different than when I had met him. What I mean is, you know, MS had it rough from many angles, and one of them they were basically put in the back burner, right? They weren't able to hold a position of power. They could program as camaradas. They are camaradas, but for some reason the Pilis kept them at bay, right? In the sense of giving them responsibilities. Not because they didn't deserve it or nothing. It was just, well, it's their business otherwise, right? You know, I do understand now Verde went up, but as many other neighborhoods, right? It got cleared off and it should have been a dead issue there. But when he hit Corcoran, it was different. There was numerous of camaradas with position of power or responsibilities there. German, like I mentioned, Travieso, you know, what was his name? Flaco. Well, there was a few of them, right? And again, Loquito was one of the individuals that got there with, you could say, of bumping heads with Artie due to Terco. He was a little fool, right? And I seen it before, and Artie had given passes mostly to every single of them. So I got at him right away since AR, right before anything. And I told him why he was there, and it was for removing a mess of Artie, right? And I told him what do you mean removing? Yeah, we whacked him off the yard. And, I told him, man, homie, you got to reach out and say it ain't nothing personal. It's business. You know, their misunderstanding among Speelies is theirs. You want to make things right with him. But the homie was stubborn. He didn't really, feel he needed to. He felt he was in the right, which is true, right? Where he was at, it was Terco's yard, and Artie was trying to take it from him. And he just defended his service, which was holding the yard for Terco, right? But he was in Artie's house. Again, I was just trying to have the homie go through the struggles, but not get put in the shell, right? The worst part is, on A yard, everything's cool. I was able to hold it at bay, you could say, with issues. There was always issues. If those ever hold positions in the shoes, every day there's mama bees going out and there's always issues. Someone gets there in good status and bad status, or you're trying to figure that out. Someone got whacked, Sally got moved on. Well, you name it, right? Someone got cracked with huilas, with fierros, the repercussions, all that. And but once he gets validated, he actually goes over there before me, right, to be yard. Shortly after I get validated, and I end up over there on B yard with the homie, and he was real close with Serio. I mean, they were bow wows, right? Everything I heard, not just from them two, from other camaradas there. Like I said, there's a good camarada that came out on Tony's channel that, you could believe every word he talks about, right? And they would eventually sell up, right? Sell up in the weight of Serio going back up or going up to the bay, excuse me. But in the short while, he had already been blessed. And, a lot of people don't speak on it, but he followed suit with Ari. Basically, Loco wasn't going to ever bow down, or however you want to put it, right? So he never reached out to Artie. He just took it at face value, and next thing you know, said he whacked him, and you know what comes after? They remove him, and while he was in Corcoran, he was basically taken off the program and was a no good status, right? I got there and we couldn't talk to him no more, right? And I found what excuse me, I found out why, and the only time I see him in medical, right? I just told him, hey, loco, te dije, way, you know, you gotta know where you're at, fool. You can't go against these individuals. Nah, I'll get cleared up, I'll get cleared up. I'll eventually hit the bay. That was his thought, right? And which was to somewhat true, right? If Artie put you on the shelf or something, you had grounds to appeal in the bay, right? Because again, they weren't with Artie. The problem is that said he was a made member, whacked them. He got out to the bay and he lifted his chest, bragging. even though they were supposed to be camaradas, uña y mugre, right? And basically left them no room to appeal anything. And overall, Serio had already co-signed his doom. So, it took some quite time to go up there. I went, he got validated before me. I would end up picking, well, you guys know, and I would end up hitting the bay, and he still took a minute to hit up there. And he was single cell, but he was not to be considered a camarada. That was one of the times I learned is just don't get close to a homie. Don't play with feelings. I know it sounds gacho and everything because we're riding for the same thing. We're bleeding, sweating. We're following orders under the same thing. But that's just the truth. You can't go in there and come to like someone because different minds. You might be a die-hard program follower or willing to do anything for the program like I was, right? And then you might ace deuce it with the homie that I'm not gonna say he thinks he's above the program. He just has that mentality where if I'm on the right, I am never gonna bow down, right? As let's just keep it as sincere you need to when it comes to them individuals. So I came to learn that, camaradas, while we're out there on the same yard, everything's good. We're boogieing firmes, but never let nobody in close like that, because that's a heartache you're gonna go through. Believe me, as I'm sure Loco did when one he did things with. Keep in mind, they removed a fool claiming to be a member. He still didn't get no type of brownies for that. He got backstabbed by Serio just to get up to the bay and brag about it. He was utilized to pump his career, even though he was a made member already. But that's how it is, everyone. Again, this is just an in look on now. It's sad, but you gotta admit it. Even your own homeboys from your neighborhood, the ones you grew up with in the system doing time, they're the ones gonna be utilized to get close to you. I'm gonna keep it a buck. The only vatos I seen that would ride with their homeboys and let the repercussions hit. You rush one of them, they all jump. You whack one of them, they all jump. Was Maravilla. You know, MS was known too for sticking with their own, right? But the problem was where you were at. Was there camaradas from MS? Were there with the huevos to push for you? Remember when we were slammed in the shoe? There ain't really much you could do there, right? But anyways, again, this is just an in look and keeping my word on touching on a homie from MS. He's a good homie. Unfortunately, he sat a long time in the shoe because even though he had gotten hit, wasn't programming, wasn't considered camarada, he still didn't want to debrief and go to that side, right? Or go out that way. But he would eventually get out the shoe like everyone else, right? I don't know where he's at. I hope he's well, maintaining to himself, maintaining to what he believes in. but I couldn't really tell you because I don't really know the program on that side, and I hear a lot of different scenarios, right? So, but anyways, just be wise, you know. Don't put yourself in a situation where you can't trust nobody. Facts. Take it from an individual that, man, I know I sound stupid, retarded, however you want to put me, but and I had a lot of care for my celly. He was above me, he was a member. And just because someone gave me orders that he was taking space because of jealousy, I didn't touch my heart. That's why I'll speak on it. Because I was that individual that played possum and got near people to take care of what needed to be taken care of. And I'm not proud of it, but I'm also not going to lie to anyone. Please stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones. Buenas noches.
This is so we always